Welcome to the In-Tune Guitar Academy. Today we have a special guest. We're talking about a topic that's got nothing to do with guitar, but it's a topic that I find very interesting. It's following your passion, following your purpose. And does your purpose define your passion, or does your passion define your purpose? So today's special guest is Michael Drolet, somebody I've known for many years. And I remember him many years ago telling me that he wanted to be world-class at something. He's very much into cycling, so he wanted to be world-class in the cycling world. That noise in the background is his cat, so don't mind the cat. So anyways, he wanted to be world-class at something, and one of the things he was very interested in is cycling, and he didn't think he had the ability to become a world-class cyclist, so he decided to become a world-class judge. And that's just one part of his life. He's also avid motorcycle rider, avid RVer. He's got a very nice camper and a nice pickup truck. And he's account manager for a major international company, a multinational. And he's been doing that for many years for different employers. And so today we're going to talk to Mike about his experiences as a mountain bike judge, and he's made it to the Olympics twice as a judge, in the Rio Games in 2016 and in the Tokyo 2020 Games, which were actually held in 2021 because of COVID.
Future trivia question, that one, right?
Exactly. And then also he's judged many world-class events. So tell me, how exactly did you get started in judging for mountain bike riding? Is it only mountain bike riding, or do you do other?
So I've always ridden bikes. When I was a kid, it was the way that we got around. Loved it, but then, like everybody, when I got my first driver's license and got my first car, kind of moved away from riding the bikes. But then in 1985, a friend of mine let me try this newfangled thing called a mountain bike.
Oh, okay.
And it was a Norco Bigfoot, one of these old steel things that today would seem very, very antiquated, but
no suspension whatsoever.
Nothing, just straight steel forks and
just a
rigid
bike with
rear.
big wheels.
Exactly. And I was blown away by the fact that I could almost ride up a wall on it. And I thought that was just the greatest thing ever. So when I took a break from Cégep, because I took a 1 year off, changed my orientation, went from pure and applied sciences into business after I started back up, I bought myself my first mountain bike, which would have been late 85 or spring of 86.
And just a footnote, sorry to interrupt, but Cégep is something unique to Quebec.
Yeah, it's like a junior college.
Yeah, junior college. So we're both Canadian. Mike lives in Quebec, and in the way it works in Quebec, you go to high school till grade 11. And
you keep saying that, and I'll just let the cat out.
Oh, you're going to let the cat out.
Yeah,
so
I'll let the cat out.
We go to high school till grade 11, and then after grade 11, you choose to either go to technical college or pre-university. So Cégep does either technical college or pre-university. Mike was in pre-university, and he started off in the sciences and took a year off to go into business.
Yep, I actually worked in the family business for a year to clear my head. I decided pretty quickly that pure and applied science wasn't for me, and so I went back into business and completed my degree after that at Concordia. And moved into the business realm, and I've been there ever since.
Okay, so back to the mountain bike.
So I bought my first mountain bike in either late 85 or early 86 and just started riding that bike. And as I stayed involved with the family business, I started hanging out in Bromont, saw an opportunity to open a business here with my parents. We owned Dunkin' Donuts shops at the time. So we opened a Dunkin' Donuts shop in a new shopping center that had just been built as you come through the village in Bromont heading towards the ski hill.
And Bromont is a town in southern Quebec, one of the eastern townships of Quebec province in Canada.
It's about an hour east of Montreal, halfway between Montreal and Sherbrooke if you look on a map. Sometimes Bromont won't show up because it's too small. So I opened this business, and then the following year, in 1992, they were holding the Mountain Bike World Championships in town. So me running this business, woman shows up, says, "Can you put up these signs in your window because we're having an event?" And I answered back, "Well, I only put up posters or signs in my window if I'm involved in the event." And so she started arguing with me, trying to convince me to put up her poster. And I stopped her and I said, "Listen, you're not understanding what I'm saying. I only put up posters if I'm involved in the event. So how can I get involved? And it's funny because she kind of stopped, thought about that for a second and said, I'll be back tomorrow. And so she came back the next day and said, well, can you provide snacks for our volunteers? And I answered, yes. How many volunteers? She says, we have 300 volunteers. If you can give us 150 muffins for over 3 days, we'll give you some visibility. I said, perfect, put up your sign. And I thought that was really cool. So I asked if I could get involved personally as a volunteer. And she said, yes, we'll have somebody call you. We do a group of people that are designated to do the things that nobody thought to plan for. So they call that l'équipe volante in French. So the flying team, if you will. The gopher team possibly would be a good way of saying it.
Plugging holes.
Yeah, plugging holes. So I went over there and volunteered for a day, and lo and behold, the gentleman that was running that team was the mechanic that took care of my cars. So we kind of connected and figured out that, oh, well, listen, you're involved. I'd like to get involved.
Life in a small town.
Life in a small town. So subsequent to that, I told them that I thought that was really cool. The Mountain Bike World Championships in '92 were the first really big ones, 27 countries. Big enough event that the UCI, which is the governing body for cycling worldwide, decided to put us right into the Olympics without doing a demonstration year in 1996. So all of that was going on in the background when I said, well, how can I get more involved? And you could hear the sucking sound as they pulled me in and got me involved in the club. And then the next year in 93, they were holding the first ever commissaire training course for mountain bike in Montreal at the Olympic Stadium, because a judge in cycling is called a commissaire. It's the same for all disciplines in cycling.
And cycling uses lots of French terminology.
Yes.
No matter where you come from,
Yes.
Many of the terms are French.
Absolutely, because the governing body is in Lausanne in Switzerland.
Okay.
France with the Tour de France is probably it's the crucible of cycling for
It's like the Wimbledon of the
years.
cycling world.
Exactly.
So, in just a little bit of context, Bromont is actually a little village built around a ski hill. It's not a huge ski hill. It's maybe 1,200 feet vertical rise. It's a nice ski hill. It's where I learned to ski as a young boy, and then I skied there for many years. We're right in the eastern township, so there's lots of ski hills around. So if you picture a ski hill right in the middle of the center, and then the village just evolved around it, and now it's become a very sophisticated place. Mountain biking, skiing, snowboarding. It's draws people from around the world.
And the interesting thing about Bromont is that originally it was called West Shefford Village.
Oh.
And then in the mid-'60s, when they were planning the Eastern Townships Autoroute, Highway 10, if you're familiar with the road system around here, the Desorzi family was involved in the planning of the highway, and they saw potential in Bromont to build the city of the year 2000, that they called it. So they made sure that the autoroute's route went right by Granby and Bromont. Mm. It actually makes a detour to do that if you look at it on a map.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I never realized that.
Yeah, it was quite a bit of lobbying and 1960s, right?
We both grew up in Granby, Quebec.
Yes, so we're both
and
from
Granby and Bromont are almost. Bromont's basically a suburb of Granby.
Yeah, exactly, a suburb of Granby. So they planned the city of the year 2000, saying, well, Bromont is going, because it was Mont Brome is the name of the mountain. Bromont became the name of the town, and they said the city of the year 2000 is going to be divided up into 4 sectors. So there'll be the residential sector, the commercial, which is all of the retail shops and everything, the industrial sector, and the recreational. And if you look at a map of Bromont, it's gotten a little more mixed now. All 4 of those sectors are separate. And they really are still executing that master plan that one of the Desorzi men designed in the mid-'60s. Mm-hmm. They're still executing it today because Charles Desorzi is the owner of the mountain at the moment.
Okay.
And has been for the past 15 or so years. And he's the one that's developed it. So Bromont, when I moved here 21 years ago, was about 3,000 people, and today we're just tickling the underside of 10,000. So we've grown explosively in 20 years.
And just as a side note, in 1976, the equestrian events for the Montreal Olympics were actually held in Bromont, an hour outside of Montreal.
Yeah. So we say that there's multiple groups that live in Bromont. There's the skiers, the mountain bikers, the equestrians, and then Well, the West Shefforders are the leftovers from back when
Oh,
it was
okay.
West Shefford.
So
right?
we've really digressed off our topic, but anyway, we're both interested.
Context.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
We're both interested in our roots. So tell me more about your cycling.
So I did the commissaire course in 1993. The president of the club, who's the guy that brought me in originally, he became the president of the club in 93, and he said, well, we need someone to go learn the rules. They're giving a course at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. If you go, we'll pay for it. So I said, okay, not knowing what I was getting into, and I headed to the Olympic Stadium, empty-handed. Walked in, they handed us a rule book and said, okay, well, you've had a chance to read that rule book, now we're going to do the class. And I was like, whoa, nope, hadn't read the rule book, but then over the course of 2 days, read the rule book while they were giving the class and ended up getting the second highest mark out of a group of 30 people. So I guess I figured it out pretty quick. So subsequently became what's called a provincial commissaire. So there's levels, just like any amateur sport, whether it be hockey or football or anything. When you're a ref, you start at the bottom level and you work your way up based on the courses that you take and the experience. So I became provincial commissaire, started working at races. Mountain biking was a very young sport at the time, so a lot of the people involved were the parents of kids who were riding or guys who were riding, and all of that evolved slowly into becoming more of a professional sport, especially after we knew that we were going to go to the Olympics. So I did my national course in 1997. Then in 1998, I became a national technical delegate. I'll explain later what a technical delegate is. And then in 2001, I was supposed to do my international course in Quito in Ecuador, but the course got postponed to the fall in Austria, and I couldn't make it because I had a work commitment the same week. So finally did my international course in 2003. In Switzerland, which was good because that was the year that the World Cycling Center opened in Aigle in Switzerland, which is just outside of Lausanne, and that became the world headquarters for cycling. And since then, I've been doing races all over the world. And
just for context, Mike is not a grocery store clerk. He's a professional guy. He's always worked as an account rep or in an office of some sort.
Marketing and things like that.
Exactly. So to be able to fit the mountain bike judging into his schedule is pretty remarkable. I've always found it quite remarkable that he's able to balance those two aspects of his life.
Yeah. What I've done over the years is whenever I've begun a new employment, it's part of the negotiation process that I need the people that hire me to understand that I need to be away every once in a while and do races. I'll use my vacation time. And I even now, in the current job that I'm doing, I have an agreement with my immediate superior that when I go to a race, I'll take vacation days, but I'm not really on vacation because I'll answer my phone and I'll answer emails later on during the day once the racing stuff is done. So it doesn't really show that I'm away. There's always exceptions. When I was in Tokyo for the Olympics, that was a little more difficult, but yeah, if I go away for a weekend, most of the races we do are for a weekend.
Okay. So, yeah. Well, I mean, that's a lesson for everybody to learn, is that you don't have to take exactly what your employer gives. You do have some negotiating power, especially now that the employment market is so tight. That you can negotiate and have everybody talks about the work-life balance. Absolutely. This is exactly work-life balance because that's part of his life. And I mean, work is important, but I think this is more important.
Oh, I've quit jobs because they wouldn't let me go to a race.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Absolutely.
So this goes to the topic of passion versus purpose.
Yes.
Purpose. I don't think you could ever make a living off of mountain bike judging.
It doesn't pay enough.
No.
Like I've calculated if I were to do a typical year, which is anywhere from 220 to 230 work days, based on what they pay you for doing the racing. And it would be not even 1/3 of what I make now doing the job that I do for the big company, right?
Right. So I mean, that's what I get to when I talk about passion. He's passionate about judging mountain bike races, and I should also mention that he's the drummer in our band. We have a little 3-piece band where I play bass. My brother plays rhythm and electric lead guitar, and he's our drummer. A very good drummer. He's improved over the years. So there you go. Many facets to Mike, and his beautiful wife is right behind us. So cheering us on.
Exactly. So just getting back to the whole commissarying thing. So just so people understand what it's about. when you organize a cycling event, the key person is always what we call the organizer. Now, the organizer doesn't mean that person actually does all the work. They're the person whose name is on what we call the sanction. The sanction is, okay, you get this level of event, here are the requirements for that level of event, and now it's your responsibility to organize everything that goes around it. When you do a big international event, that can be a team of 20 to 30 people that are on the organizing committee, and then that all just goes down to up to 300 to 400 volunteers, depending on the size of the event.
So you're a type of a general manager or a project manager.
Yeah, so exactly. So the organizer is one key person. The second key person is what we call the technical delegate. The technical delegate is responsible for working with the organizer to make sure that all of the physical installations required for the race are there, up to standard, and ready when we need them. So inspecting the courses, making sure that all of the rooms that you need for meetings or for registration, that the start-finish area is set up properly, that there's right down to there's enough porta potties so that everybody who comes to the event can, exactly, things like that are important. So that's what the technical delegate takes care of. And then the third person in that group is the chief commissaire or the president of the commissaires panel, and that person is responsible for the sporting aspects of the event. So the sporting aspects being making sure everybody has a license, registering all of the participants, producing start lists, making sure that once you get to start the race that everybody who's supposed to be there is there, and recording those that aren't. Then starting the event based on the rules, running the race based on the rules, whether it's a cross country, a downhill, there's multiple different mountain bike disciplines. The finish order, making sure that you produce results, making sure that those results match everything that's required during the event, so we could have did not starts, did not finish, DSQs, things like that. Okay. We also run something called an 80%, which I can explain if you like. And then at the very end, making sure the podiums are run properly, and then producing a report on how the event went. So when you look at work, it's a lot of work. So the three people, the technical delegate, the organizer, and the chief commissaire, these three people are that tip of the pinnacle. The pinnacle is the pyramid to make sure that the event runs properly. The final responsibility that everything runs properly always remains with the organizer, but the organizer must do what the technical delegate and the chief commissaire ask for if it's within the context of the rule.
So have you ever seen a race where everything has gone terribly wrong?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I ran a very low level, because it starts, the Olympic Games is the ultimate level, right, and then it just moves down from there. So Olympic Games, the World Cup series is the professional series in mountain bike. It would be like the World Tour on the road, if ever you know anything about road. So, and then after that, you've got the Continental Championships, National Championships, then HC, which is hors classe. There's maybe 4 or 5 of those a year, and then C1, C2, C3. So the C3 race is the lowest level of race that you can get international points. You can run a C3, basically a regional race, where you invite people from your area to come to a race, and the top 8 finishers in the elite men category will get, elite men and elite women will get UCI points. I was running
just like an open.
Yeah, so it's open to anybody who wants to come and participate in the race. When you look at a C3, it's that entry level for international. Well, I was running a C3 in Ontario about 3 years ago, and my recommendation back to the UCI and to the National Federation, because the National Federation, every country has a National Federation. My recommendation was that organizer should never be given a race again.
Oh, okay.
That's how bad it was. Right. Everything was bad, But then on the flip side, you get the really good events. The last event I did was a mountain bike World Cup in Snowshoe, West Virginia. That was 2.5 weeks ago.
Okay.
And they originally had a cross-country downhill and a cross-country short track. And then because of a cancellation in Europe, COVID, the Fort McWilliam in Scotland got cancelled, and they asked the organizers in Snowshoe if they could do their round of downhill. So we did a full downhill, a second full downhill, cross-country short track, and a cross-country Olympic.
And you were there for a week, right?
I was there for 8 days. That one was a long one. I took a week vacation.
And but long days, right? Like 12-hour days.
Like we're 6:30 in the morning briefing marshals, and finish the meetings at usually 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. So it's sometimes 14 hours. And that was one of the best events I've ever been to.
Really?
Absolutely. It was so good.